Welcome to Film Strip. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Ron.
I'm Lindsey.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Black Christmas. So here we are to talk about the reason for the season and the reason Robert Downey Jr. got the Iron Man gig. The wonderful Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, starring Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer, Michelle Monaghan, and Corbin Burnson, with a special appearance by a pink-haired Shannon Sosamon, which I had no idea that was her until I just watched it here recently. Written and directed by Shane Black, released in 2005 on a budget of $15 million, it grossed $15.8 million at the box office, but has kind of served as the movie that relaunched Robert Downey Jr. into the mainstream Hollywood realm, and also ended up getting Shane Black the job of doing Iron Man 3. So, before I go any further with that prattling, Lindsey, what's your background with this movie?
I just watched this movie for the very first time a couple of days ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think I might have mentioned that on our other Shane Black podcast, but I honestly don't know how I missed it, because when it was released in 2005, this movie hit every section of genre that I was watching at the time. So it really fit the aesthetic that I was into and all of the other movies that I, found myself engaging with. So I'm not sure how I missed it, but I did. It went under my radar. Probably it wasn't at the local Blockbuster or independent video rental place where I went. I don't know. But either way, I watched it this time, and I think 2005 Lindsey would have really enjoyed it. It was pretty fun.
I think 2005 Lindsey really missed out.
I think she did too.
I am pretty sure that this one was an HBO catch for me, but the first time I saw it, and I don't even think I didn't even come into the beginning of it. I caught it like kind of in the middle, and I was like, got pulled immediately into the story. And I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And then I tracked it down at a local independent video store back when those were still a thing that existed in America, back when this country was actually great. If we're going to make America great again, we need to relaunch video stores. And I'm not talking Blockbuster. I'm talking mom and pop. I want the store that also is a tanning salon, that also sells like gyro meat, that also sells like, bootleg Chinese Transformers, the Transmorphers version. But yeah, I saw this movie and immediately fell in love with the movie. I was a big fan of Robert Downey Jr. from other stuff he'd done. But to me, like, the linchpin for the movie that made me just like latch on immediately was Val Kilmer. Because Val Kilmer is the star of one of my all-time favorite spoof movies, Top Secret, which is something that will definitely be on the show. And I think we've mentioned it before fairly recently on the show, but I will keep mentioning it again until it happens, because it's absolutely one of the craziest, funniest. It's the movie that is the most like Airplane from the Zuckers and Abrams collective, because it is just like, we're going to smash you in the face with gags, and there will be dumb visual jokes, there will be smart jokes, there will be wordplay, every joke we can think of. Here it is. And Val Kilmer, a young baby Val Kilmer, is the one that is the straight man, because as we all know about Val Kilmer, he is like, he can be funny in the right situations, but he's funny because he's completely deadpan, and he is great in Top Secret. And he is just, this is the last, like, to me, this is the last truly great Val Kilmer movie. Because after this, he started to get his health problems, and he started to take some roles that were just, to get the paycheck and stuff like that. And I don't remember when this came around in the timeline with the Wonderland Murders, which is another great Val Kilmer performance. But This is, to me, this is like, there was a big Key and Peele skit, right? Have you seen it?
Hmm.
Where they talk about Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer and how great Robert Downey Jr. is and how great Val Kilmer are. And they start tracking their careers. Like, this is where Val Kilmer starts out. He's super high. He's doing all these great movies. He's in Tombstone, stuff. And then they're like, it's going down. And then Robert Downey Jr., he's down here, but he's coming up and up and up and up. And then they meet at the apex. And then both Key and Peele like explode and fly into the air because they meet at Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I have
And
never seen that sketch before.
I'll send it to you because
Okay.
the punchline alone, the build up to the punchline is just fabulous, right? But the fact that they come together on this specific movie, this, I think we've already spoiled it. I called it wonderful in the friggin' introduction. Lindsay's already said she loved it. So this movie is just absolute fire. And speaking of absolute fire, Lindsay, you have the hard part of trying to give us a plot summary for what is a, well, before we get to the plot summary, you mentioned like this was a exactly in your wheelhouse at the time. What were you watching in 2005?
I watched, I think that year, Thank You for Smoking also came out. I actually saw that. We had a local, like an indie movie theater.
Oh, nice.
So that was showing at that theater. Let's see, what else? Snatch, The Usual Suspects,
Oh,
anything
nice.
Quentin Tarantino that had come out. I guess Reservoir Dogs was also on the docket, but what else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, I Heart Huckabees.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really, quirky movies.
Quirky, dense, crime heavy
Yeah.
movies. Uh, I've told this story in the podcast like a lot, so I'm not going to go into it all again. But Snatch came out on video when I was working at Hollywood Video.
We had a Hollywood Video where I grew up. It switched hands several times, but that was one of our 2 video stores, unless you counted the gas station, which also rented videos in my hometown.
What's funny is my RA in college, his family owned like a convenience store type of deal
Mhm.
that also was a video store. And after the store part closed, they just kept all those tapes. So he would just come in, like, we all still had VCRs and stuff because it was the early 2000s because I'm ancient. But he would come home from like visiting his parents with like a stack of videotapes, and we would just watch whatever crazy tapes he'd picked out. One time he brought like 5 WrestleManias. So we just sat and watched 5 WrestleManias. Like, I took my VCR down to the common
Nice.
area of the dorm. We hooked it up to the big TV. We just watched like WrestleMania 4, all like 3 hours of it. The ridiculous um, Hogan versus Andre. We watched the WrestleMania. Which one was it? There was a WrestleMania that was a tournament for the belt that Macho Man won. Watched that one. Just like nothing, nothing that took place outside of the steroids era of the WWE. But
That was
yeah,
the best era.
and then he had a copy of oh, it was like the South's bloodiest matches, and it was all these like Memphis, Mid South, Louisiana tapes where like you know Bullet Bob Armstrong would just gush blood everywhere. It was great.
Before there was WWE Network, Ron had a VCR in his dorm room.
That's true, yeah, and a DVD player, and that's how I lost like 3 copies of Fight Club because I had Fight Club on DVD, and it kept getting loaned out to nice people who just would loan it out to other people, and then it would disappear.
Yeah, that was another film that was on my regular viewing docket.
But yeah, that's probably what I was watching in 2005 too. Honestly, that's probably what I'm watching in 2024 while we're
Yeah.
at it. Uh,
Anything that was like a little bit mind fucky, I think, was right in my wheelhouse, especially then.
yeah, that was a great time of moviedom where you know people were playing with the format, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't much before I saw this movie that I saw Michael Haneke's Funny Games. Have you seen Funny Games?
I have not.
Well, it's this brutal movie. It's like a brutal home invasion movie. It's like if The Strangers were dialed up to 11. It's a movie that my wife hates,
Okay.
because she just hates Michael Haneke, and understandably so. He's real intense, right? But there's a moment in the movie where, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but then the main bad guy character turns to the camera and says, "No, we can't do that. This is not this kind of movie. You people are here to watch entertaining violence. You're not here to be made to whatever." I forget what the point is, but the point is he breaks the fourth wall directly, looks at the audience, speaks to the audience about their poor taste, and then rewinds the film to change what the thing that had happened that was a step too far or whatever.
Yeah, those I feel like there were a bunch of movies at the time that broke the fourth wall, including this one.
There were a bunch of movies like in the early 2000s where like narrator guy was the one who was telling the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of the story, Lindsay, why don't you tell us the story as best you can? Because this movie goes in a lot of different directions of what
Yeah.
happens in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Thanks for the tee off, Ron. I'm gonna do my best. Like you said, there's a lot going on. So we'll just give it a go. So this movie begins at an LA party where we meet Harry Lockhart, played by Robert Downey Jr., who is our narrator and also one of the main guys in the movie. And he is recounting recent events where we see a fleeing botched burglary. Harry's friend is shot, and that forces Harry to evade police by ducking into an audition where he accidentally impresses the producers, which ends up getting him sent to Hollywood. And he is at a party before a screen test where he meets private investigator Perry Van Shrike, aka Gay Perry, played by Val Kilmer, expertly. And he also meets the party host, Harlan Dexter, who is a retired actor. And we find out that he recently resolved a 10-year feud over his wife's inheritance with his daughter, Veronica. Harry also encounters his childhood crush, Harmony Lane. And this is all within the first few minutes of the film, folks. So buckle up. We've got a little bit more to get through. Later, Peter and Harry witness a vehicle being dumped in a lake, and they are spotted by the alleged perps. Perry shoots the trunk lock in a rescue attempt, but accidentally hits the female corpse inside as well. So they can't exactly report the body now since it appears Perry killed her. Harmony contacts Harry later on, thinking that he's a detective, which may have come out when Harry was lying about what he did for a living to a flight attendant. She explains that her sister Jenna came to LA, stole Harmony's credit cards, and later killed herself. So she asks Harry to investigate Jenna's death as a murder. After she leaves, Harry discovers the lake corpse in his bathroom and a planted pistol. Harry and Perry dump the corpse, later identified as Veronica Dexter by police. Harry discovers later that it was Harmony's credit card that was used to hire Perry to come to the lake, tying Jenna to their case. He goes to see Harmony, who accidentally slams the door on Harry's finger, cutting it off. So she takes him to a hospital where they successfully sew it back on. They go to a party, but Harry is abducted, beaten, and threatened in order to cease the investigation by the killers from the lake that they saw earlier. And then they let him go. Harmony, who was taking him back to the hospital, sees the killers heading to Perry's stakeout. Realizing that Perry is heading into a trap, Harmony leaves Harry in her car and rushes off to the stakeout where she saves Perry. A pink-haired girl affiliated with the killers steals Harmony's car and unwittingly drives an unconscious Harry at this point to her safe house. The remaining lake killer arrives and shoots her, the pink-haired girl. Harry recovers the pistol, shoots the thug, and his finger has fallen off again. So he puts it on ice, but a dog jumps up and eats it. Harmony then meets Harry at his hotel, where she reveals that she had told Jenna, her sister, that Harlan Dexter was actually her real father. They quarrel. He throws her out, being careful not to slam the door on her fingers. After Harmony disappears following a lead, Harry and Perry investigate a private health clinic owned by Harlan Dexter. Perry realizes Veronica Dexter was incarcerated there by Harlan, so an imposter could drop her court case. The pair captured a guard to question him, but accidentally kill him, and then are captured by Dexter. Harry calls Harmony, who it turns out had not actually disappeared, but simply gone to work and didn't have cell service. Harmony steals the van containing the coffin, which contains a Veronica Dexter. Harry and Perry escape, but Harmony crashes the van. Perry is incapacitated in the ensuing shootout. Harry manages to kill Dexter and his thugs, but is also shot. Waking up in a hospital, Harry finds that Perry and Harmony are fine. Perry reveals Harmony's sister was not murdered, but did in fact commit suicide. They then travel back to Harmony's hometown for the funeral, after which Harry finds out he lost the movie role he was originally shipped off to Hollywood to get, and he lost it to Colin Farrell. But that's okay, because Harry gets a job working for Perry, and they live happily ever after.
Boy, Shane Black is one of those people who, and I don't mean this as a diminutive, but he's one of those people like Tarantino who just absorbs things and chops them up and is able to replicate specific things so well. This thing is just structured like a classic film noir detective story, just turned up to like 11 or 12. Like if the Coen brothers took a film noir, the man who wasn't there kind of movie, and turned it up to 11 with the Big Lebowski, Shane Black was like, all right, fuck you guys, I'm going to do this at 15. Boom. Here's Val Kilmer. Here's a guy getting his finger cut off. Here's a flying corpse.
It's so like this, because it somehow managed to flow really well, even with all of the convoluted things that, if you've not seen this movie and you just listen to the plot summary, make absolutely no sense. And there are so many fun surprises. The finger cut off, again, this was my first time watching it. Absolutely did not see that coming whatsoever. And I am so glad that they tied it in to several different bits throughout the movie. It worked really well. It was funny every time.
Yeah, the thing about this movie is we can't really discuss it without just talking about how brilliant a performer Robert Downey Jr. is, right?
Yeah. And he was sober at this point. He'd been off.
This was his like second movie sober. He did he did another movie for Joel Silver right before this one. What's it called? Gothica.
Yeah.
He had been in Gothica with Halle Berry, and that's why he knew Joel Silver, because his now wife worked as Joel Silver's assistant, and she was like, "Hey, you should check out this movie." And Joel Silver, of course, is the producer that gave Shane Black his start by producing Lethal Weapon and also producing The Last Boy Scout. And he kind of went back to the well, and I think it's not directly said, but I feel like Shane Black, after the failure of The Long Kiss Goodnight, was like, I need to go back to working with someone I know, and ended up going back to Joel Silver. And funny enough, the script like bounced around Hollywood for a while before he went to Joel Silver, who was like, yeah, I'll give you a shot. And weirdly enough, they had a strange collection of people who were considered for this role ahead of Robert Downey Jr., right?
I saw a few.
Johnny Knoxville would have been
That's what I was going to mention.
crazy. Like,
I could
don't
see
know,
him doing it. That would have been weird. Robert Downey Jr. does such a good job with this role.
But I feel like Johnny Knoxville, as an actor anyway, has such a weird energy.
Yeah.
I don't know if like any of the scenes with Michelle Monaghan would have worked if it was Johnny Knoxville, any of the romantic stuff. But I feel like the gay Perry slapstick kind of stuff, he would have knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, if Johnny Knoxville had been cast in this, maybe he would have been the Iron Man that we all know and love.
Oh, instead of what was it, Bad
Robert Downey
Grandpa?
Jr.
No, instead of the Grandpa
Oh,
movie
instead
he
of
made,
Dirty Grandpa?
Dirty
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Yep.
I keep wanting to call it Bad Grandpa, but that's the Robert De Niro slumming it for $1 movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that also funny, but yeah.
But
Yeah, that
yeah,
was
that
weird.
was it's a really weird. This is a strange movie to make in 2005. I don't know if like people were paying attention to film noir back then, right? I feel like
Yeah.
maybe this is like the tail end of that like neo noir kind of boom that Tarantino and Guy Ritchie and whoever did Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, um,
Yeah.
all kind of like brought back, right?
This felt like a Guy Ritchie film. It was giving Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, but it's very, it's also like incredibly Los Angeles centric.
Yeah,
If not, if
that's
only
fair.
just because I believe Harlan's house was Shane's Black's actual house.
Actual mansion? Yeah, I did read that. I mean, I guess Shane Black was also pretty well known for throwing these massive parties as well, like these big Hollywood parties in that mansion.
Yeah, which, nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
How do you feel like some of the other, before we get too far into the actual discussion of the movie, how do you feel like some of the other two big names that were mentioned, Benicio del Toro and Hugh Grant, how do you feel like they would have done in this movie?
Did you say Hugh Grant?
Yes.
I didn't know that he was considered for that. That would have been really an odd choice, I think,
He's the one who I feel like his energy does not match this movie at all.
at all. No. Benicio del Toro, I can totally see doing it a little bit, but again, yeah, it's really different energy he brings to the screen. He would have brought an entirely different chemistry with all of the other
Yeah,
actors.
yeah, Benicio del Toro, and maybe it's just my the movies I've seen him in seems like a much more dangerous character than
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. Like Robert Downey Jr., I believe can like bumble his way through a murder plot, right? Benicio del Toro, I feel like he's doing the murders.
Yeah. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is basically Ferris Bueller in this movie. He's the Ferris Bueller of film noir in 2005.
Okay, that's great. You got me with that one. That's a fabulous comparison.
He's
Because he
bringing
literally
Ferris Bueller energy.
he's breaking the fourth wall. He's cracking these jokes. He's literally like stopping the movie dead. He's it's the structure of this movie is insane, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it owes so much to like the conventions of film noir. When you think of film noir, what do you think? You think of a detective there smoking cigarettes, like I was there when the dame walked into my office. Her legs was a mile long, and she had a rap sheet almost as big, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of like Raymond Chandler-y, not even like Raymond Chandler. He was a better writer than that, but like the sub Raymond Chandler spoof things. Like the whole movie kind of feels like if SCTV tried to do tried to do like a film noir, because it's very witty, it's very funny. It 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 plays so much with the convention while like being honest to the convention, you know?
Yeah. The the music in this too was really spot on for that old noir detective music. I mean, we had a few Christmas song drops, which was nice because we are in Shane Black Christmas after all. But I thought the score was really great. It made it really fun. It made it feel like a really fun, kind of goofy, kind of serious detective movie.
And let's be honest, this is a movie where our hero accidentally pees on a 2-day-old corpse.
Yeah.
So you can't take it too seriously. But man, I feel like Gay Perry has to be one of the most quotable like movie characters of this time period.
Oh my gosh. I definitely wrote down some of the quotes that I thought were so funny, and now I probably accidentally deleted it, but he just I love his endless sarcasm, and every
Mhm.
time he would say, "No, idiot," to Harry cracked me up. "You're so
My
dumb."
my favorite line is the no, you find the definition of idiot, which you fucking
Yeah.
are. And no, I'm knee deep in pussy. I just like the name so I just like the name so much it stuck.
He's so great, and Val Kilmer owned that role so, so well. He
Yeah.
just really embraced it.
And it's an interesting portrayal, right? Because it's a gay character, so you get all of the, don't quit your gay job kind of lines that like Harry is throwing at him. But also he's like, in a way, this movie functions a lot like Big Trouble in Little China, in that
Oh,
the
yeah.
main character is not the dude doing all the heroic stuff. The dude doing all the heroic stuff isn't Harry. Harry's kind of just like there, stumbling along, trying to do his best until like the very end when he starts, murking people because it's a Shane Black movie. The guy
Yeah.
doing all of the heavy lifting is Gabe Harry,
Mhm.
and Harry is the butt of the joke pretty much at all times. Even when like he and Perry are going back at each other, Harry says something. Harry would say something funny to Perry, but Gay Perry would absolutely just nuclear waste Harry with just the most acerbic lines of dialogue. And it's a funny thing that Shane Black was deliberately trying to do because he was like, there have been movies with gay characters before, but there has a movie where the gay character is someone who like kicks the door in and shoots the bad guys and saves the day and then bails,
Yeah.
which I think is such a great use of Val Kilmer, especially in this state of his life, because he isn't young or handsome anymore, but he's still pretty handsome. He's
I
look
was like, "He's still pretty handsome."
Yeah,
He
but
looks good in this
he's not
movie.
like the beautiful Val Kilmer that he had been, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of a beefier, a little more world weary. Looks like he's kind of seen some shit. Looks like he's kind of been through some shit. Been around the block a few times, Val Kilmer. And I feel like that
Sure.
really informs like when you see Gay Perry and he shows up and he just immediately starts cracking wise on Harry. He and all throughout the movie, he's very believable in the fact that he's definitely like disappeared some bodies. He is definitely like a Ray Donovan type fixer. He's the dude who they've been going to solve problems for a while now.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be flapped by any of this shit because he's been through it all.
Yeah, he was so relaxed about every single dead body, pretty much, and it took me I don't know how many dead bodies it took for me to stop worrying about how they were going to get out of this one specific dead body situation and just enjoy the fact that it'll be taken care of and they're just another dead body or 3 or 4. And once I finally hit that stride, I mean, it was fun before that, but once I finally was like, "Oh, they don't care about the dead bodies, so I'm not gonna care about the dead bodies."
The point that made me realize, they don't care about the dead body at all is when they tossed the corpse
Yes.
off the roof. It hits the side of the dumpster. It just flat falls into the street. Like one of the things that I would do in college because I was an idiot and a terrible person is our like I lived in an apartment over the summer, and we were at the very back corner of the apartment
Mhm.
complex, like that the university owned. And hopefully the statute of limitations has expired on this kind of behavior. But so we could go out on our front porch, and there was the trash cans. So we wouldn't like walk our trash over and throw it away. We would hurl trash from our porch into the dumpster. And it was like, here's a bag full of like, a week's worth of garbage. Just toss it in the air. And if it went in the dumpster, great. If it didn't go in the dumpster, that's fine too, because it didn't really matter. And not just like bags of trash, like the cardboard boxes. If we broke a DVD player, we just threw that. People would come over with a 12-pack of bottles, and we would just be chucking bottles off of the
Uh,
thing. That like it was probably a bad time, but it was also like fun.
I was like, the things that were entertaining in the early 2000s, really. I wonder if people still find that fun, just throwing stuff out of windows into a dumpster.
Yeah,
That body hitting the side of the dumpster made me guffaw, though. I was absolutely not expecting it. It was so funny. It caught me real off guard.
him like turning sharply and peeing on the corpse
Yes.
like just killed me, because that is very much like that's never happened to me. I've never like turned and peed on a corpse, but I could see that happening to
Same.
just pretty much anybody who has to like stand up to pee. It's like
Yeah.
you see the thing and you're startled by it and you immediately flinch away, and I could definitely see you just like spraying on there. Man, what a the amount of disrespect that this poor dead woman goes through in this
I
movie.
know.
Oh man.
And we don't even really know her. Like that whole storyline that kind of starts the the push down the road that this movie goes is so it almost feels like a Family Guy episode because you forget the original like purpose, right? Until the very end when it's like, "Oh yeah, that guy and his daughter."
Well,
And
that's one
now
of
we're back toward the end at this thing.
the things they mention, right, is that in all those Johnny Gossamer books, it starts out as one case, then there's another case, and they somehow end up merging together. And it turns out that this movie, like, they they basically lampshade where this movie's going to go pretty early on. But let's talk about our third, not necessarily our third major character, because that would be Harmony, but we will talk to her. But we can talk about the third biggest actor in the movie, Corbin Burnson. Wow. Talk about like a great use of his like weird smarminess. He shows up as the host of this party, Harlan Dexter, a retired actor who has become a millionaire because of his wife's inheritance, and he started this private health club, mental health facility, like rehab place, I guess.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that they use to set up the whole end of the movie, where we've got the missing daughter slash the mystery corpse and things. But we meet him at the party. Robert Downey Jr. runs into his childhood crush, Harry, excuse me, runs into his childhood crush, Harmony Lane. And, but we'll come back to Dexter. Let's talk about Harmony. What do you think about Michelle Monaghan in this movie?
I thought she was good. I thought she was very believable, Michelle Monaghan was, as Harmony Faith. I think she was quirky enough and played that, you know, girl from Indiana moving to LA to try to make it big and, hasn't quite hit pretty well. She has one line that hit, I thought, really well right before Harry realizes that it's Harmony and they're sitting at the bar, and Harmony's making fun of this old woman who's there, and I put old woman in air quotes because the people listening cannot hear me, but I did. Who's 35 and she should just quit because she's never gonna make it at the age of 35. And Harry goes, "Well, how old are you?" And she goes, 34. And I don't know why, like, she just played that so well, like, she didn't take herself too seriously, the character didn't, and I liked it.
Yeah, I appreciated that little bit in there, and to me, she's been in some other stuff I've seen. Like, yeah, she was on Boston Public, which I ended up watching a lot of that for some reason. Um, but she was in the first season of True Detective. She's very good in that. I will say that for her. But there's just something about her in this movie. Like her vibes are just perfect for this film.
Mhm.
She is not the she's not the fatale character, the femme fatale,
Right.
but she's also not quite the
Like,
test.
ingenue.
Like, yeah, she's not an ingenue. She's not a femme fatale. She's not like Tess Trueheart, the Dick Tracy's girlfriend. Uh,
Mhm.
she's kind of like a nice combination of all those things. In that she's got some femme fatale moments, particularly specific scenes that I don't feel like I need to go into great detail about, but um, when she is dressed like slutty Santa and the like. So she's got a few like, "You're going to help me with this case, Harry," kind of moments. But she is interesting in that she's the least stock character in the movie in terms of like, she's not the film noir hero who doesn't quite understand what's going on, but is going to puzzle his way through the case. She's not
Mhm.
like a hard boiled detective. She's not any of the traditional female characters of a film noir that you're going to get. She feels in some ways kind of like both a character that drives the plot and also almost kind of an audience surrogate in that she's like the one who's like kind of pointing out how absurd these people are behaving.
Yeah, but at the same time, she is there and ready to play along and really interested in being a part of all the craziness too. So, yeah, I would agree. Great audience surrogate.
And she's not, I don't know if she's quite 100% an audience surrogate, but she feels like she's serving that role for a lot of it because I feel
Mhm.
like Harry is a little too. Harry is the kind of narrator that's a little too witty to narrate the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I, and I feel like that's also like a great choice for somebody with like Robert Downey Jr.'s energy, right? He's a witty
Mhm.
dude. He's gonna talk fast. He's gonna tell you a lot of things. He's gonna throw some jokes in there, bing bang boom. It's gonna bounce, bounce, bounce. And he's gonna kind of joke with the audience, but also at certain points look down on the audience. Like, come on, detectives, if you're playing at home, you've already figured this out. But we're gonna go back to Indiana, and you're gonna see me cut Harmony in half with the chainsaw or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, this movie is very heavily influenced by film noir, which is funny because I believe it started life as Shane Black trying to do a romantic comedy, and then at a certain point, Joel Silver is like not liking the drafts he's done, and he's like, "All right, screw it, I'm going to throw in a murder. That's what I know." And then you kind of get this part romantic comedy, part film noir, part murder mystery, part action movie that ends up being what we have here. And that's one of the reasons why this plot just like has more twists and turns than I don't know, a hedge maze on a carousel.
I
Because
don't know
it's
how he did it. I feel like he would have had to have a vision board or like I'm picturing that meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with um
oh the
Charlie with all the strings on the
yeah
board and
the
all the
the
pictures. Yeah.
I believe I stole this from We Hate Movies, but we call that an evidence dungeon
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
The
kind of a
evidence
yeah.
dungeon.
And it's funny because yeah, there definitely feels like there would have to be some sort of evidence dungeon in this, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things I think that they did that really helped the movie was they brought in um cover illustrator, Robert McGinnis, who did all the covers for the Johnny Gossamer books that you see in the movie.
Okay.
And Shane Black had the technical crew, Michael Barrett, the cinematographer, the production designer, Aaron Osborne. He was like, all right, we're gonna watch like all these 60s film noir movies so you guys know what this thing is supposed to look like. And so I feel like he had the vision in his head. And have you ever read the script for this movie?
No.
I would 100% recommend you read the script because it breaks every rule in script writing. Like, you're not supposed to add a bunch of, specific descriptions. You're not supposed to like have little asides about like, you know, notes for the actors or notes for the director, stuff like that. It's supposed to be like, you're supposed to look at the script for Alien. You're supposed to write Alien, right? Alien is like the most like well-known like model of a script.
Okay.
This is the exact opposite of that because it's partially a script and partially a narrative. It's wonderful. It's great to read. Like, it's crazy. He's digging all these elements from all these things and mashing them all together. And I don't think there's anybody like writing a script then or now who could like come up with something quite this interesting to read. Even without like the actors doing the thing, it's still like it's a very funny script. And it's one of the ones that I ended up downloading off of the internet back in 2005 when I was like really trying to write scripts and had dreams.
It is just wildly, yeah, it's like a detective fever dream. I don't know. Just with all I can't believe how much was packed in. And again, trying to figure out how to summarize the plot for this monstrosity was interesting.
It's funny
Wasn't
that you mention that. I believe you mentioned like a detective question mark.
Yeah.
The movie Robert Downey Jr. did before Gothica that came out in like 2003-ish. There's him and Katie Holmes and Adrian Brody and Robin Wright and a bunch of people who've been canceled, called The Singing Detective. And it's kind of like a musical crime movie. Because what's funny is Robert Downey Jr. also does some singing in that movie, and he does the song at the end of this movie, apparently, which I had no idea that was him until like Amazon told me that with Amazon X-Ray. Free plug for Amazon. Gladly take your money. But yeah, he did these two like pretty weird, atypical detective stories back to back almost. Robert Downey Jr. did, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it's like, I don't know. When you think of like a film noir lead character, do you think of somebody like Robert Downey Jr.?
No.
No, you think of somebody who's a lot more dry, a lot more traditionally handsome, a lot more, like two-fisted. I mean,
Superhero-ish
basically
almost.
10 minutes
Yeah.
into this movie, we see Harry getting his ass kicked
Yeah.
at that party.
And he was trying to be such a good human too. And so, yeah, that was another twist that was unexpected, was challenging the guy to a fight, and I was like, "Yeah, let's see Robert Downey Jr. kick some ass." And then to see him just next scene cut over to getting his face smashed in, that was good.
Yeah.
And then they made jokes about it the rest of the party.
Yeah, that was also very, and even she made jokes about it.
Yep.
Like Harmony made the jokes about it later on in the movie. And it's funny because throughout the movie, all we see of Harry, except for when he accidentally shoots people or deliberately shoots people after they've been like hit by a car or something, he is always like the guy getting like roughed up. like outside the mental hospital, he gets smacked in the nose with a gun. Um, he
Electroshock therapy.
he gets the James Bond electrodes to the testicles treatment.
Mhm.
Even like later on when Perry is apologizing to him, was like, "You can hit me if you want," and Robert Downey Jr. smacks him. Perry immediately grabs him by the neck and puts him in like a restraining hold, like just effortlessly. It's pretty clear that Harry, for all his charm and wit and his uh, fast magician hands, is not exactly a traditional hero.
No, not even close. The poor guy still lost his finger. Never recovered.
Well, I mean, I guess it's better than leaving your severed finger behind at a crime scene,
That's
because
fair.
there were two shot people like laying in that bleeding out in the apartment, including Shannon Silsamon,
Mhm.
which I have could not tell you why I like her as much as I do, because I've only seen her in like two things. But for whatever reason, she's always like, "Oh, hey, it's her," and I'm very happy to see her when she shows up in this movie. But
I was
the
like,
the, the hard part is going to be, how do we like suss out this plot for anybody reading along, anybody like watching along who has already seen this movie? I know we've got your plot description, Lindsay, but I mean, that was hard to follow for me, and I have watched this movie like dozens of times.
yeah. Um, Geez. I mean, let's boil it down to like, because there are a few, if we're boiling it down to the twists and turns, it's just Harry is a robber who almost gets caught, but accidentally gets cast in a movie, which sends him to LA, where
Hmm.
he meets a childhood best friend, and
And his
then
private investigator coach.
his private investigator coach,
They
and
take
then
him on. He goes on a stakeout with Perry,
yeah,
and they see that car dumping the body in the lake. And then uh, Harry dives in, despite Perry's warnings. Perry dives in as well. They
mhm.
they pull the body out of the trunk and accidentally shoot the corpse in the head, which made me laugh because he was already dead. But that they decide not to report that to the police. The corpse then later appears in Harry's hotel room
Mhm.
because they're trying to frame him. And in between that, Harry runs back into Harmony, who talks about her sister who supposedly kills herself, and she hires Harry, who she thinks is a private detective in classic private detective fashion, to take this case and solve it for her.
Mhm. Which is like plot number 2. Kind of
Yes,
number 2 and a half.
yes. And then
Mhm.
that's where we have the lake corpse in the bathroom. We get the great scene where they throw it off the roof and miss the dumpster. And then they discover that Harmony's sister, Jenna, who has supposedly killed herself, had stolen Harmony's credit card and used it to hire
Yeah.
Perry to follow Dexter.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's
That
about the
part was
time.
confusing during the movie for me too. I had to think about that one.
Yeah. But she used Harmony's stage name, Allison Ames, because that's the name that was on the credit card.
Mhm.
And then that's what the scene that's the setup for when we see Harry going to see Harmony after Harry sleeps with her friend or roommate or something.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
she
that's right.
slams the door on him and cuts his hand off, or cuts his finger off his
Finger,
hand.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's that leads to the recurring finger trauma throughout the rest of this movie, including
Yeah.
the scene later on in the movie where after Harry shoots a hitman who killed Shannon Sosamon's pink-haired girl, who was also had stolen his car and was involved in an attempt to kill Gabe Harry, he takes his mangled finger out of the bandages, puts it on ice again because it had already been reattached once, but a couple of hitmen smashed him in the hand and it broke
Mhm.
off again. That's
Mhm.
my understanding. And then
Yep.
pink haired girl's dog eats said finger. And Harry's like,
Yep.
"Oh, well, I don't have to worry about the fingerprints anymore because the dog took care of them."
Hmm. Yeah. And then we get into the why Harmony's sister, like what exactly happened to her when she found out or that she actually did commit suicide because she thought that who she thought was her
Okay, so
biological father.
before we get into that, um, Harmony told her sister Jenna that her father wasn't her actual father who was molesting
Yeah,
her. Her
because their
father,
father was, yeah.
her father was one of the actors on the movie that filmed in whatever shithole Indiana town they were all from. I forget the name of it, but Indiana's terrible. Don't go there. Um, it's a mistake that a mistake of America to allow Indiana to continue to exist. I say this as someone from Kentucky, and they are our natural rivals in basketball and in life.
I've only driven through Indiana.
You have my deepest sympathies because driving through Indiana is like driving through a never-ending
Ohio?
corn. It's worse than driving through Ohio. At least Ohio has weirdos that you can
That's
see.
fair.
Indiana has cornfields and like 4 hills. Anyway, not the point, but I hate Indiana. So Harry and Harmony start to reconnect. They reminisce a little bit uh, after, you know, the girl steals Harmony's car and then they get it back. And Harry passes out in the back seat of her car. And there's a great scene where one of the two kidnapper killer guys is shot by a food cart operator who
Yeah.
is just like absolutely tired of these people and their bullshit. And so he just guns him down in the street and yells like, "That's what you get, motherfucker!" In a very funny scene. Um, but the pink-haired girl, who we find out is Shannon Sosamon, steals Harmony's car and drives Harry to her house, not realizing Harry has passed out in the back seat from presumably his pain medication or blood loss or something.
Mhm.
And that's when the other hitman, Mr. Fire, arrives and kills her. And then while he's trying to get rid of that body, Harry like crawls out from under her bed, grabs the gun, and shoots him. And then we lead into the more romantic part of our movie where Harry and Harmony start to reconnect, and you think it's going to end up the way it's going to end up, with them hooking up or whatever. But then Harmony is like, "I have a secret to confess." And then you smash cut in the hardest smash cut in history. She's dressed and yelling, and he's dressed and yelling about the fact that she slept with his best friend from high school, who's Chet Chutney, which is the funniest, like Chuck Chutney, which is like the funniest name I've ever heard in a movie. Like, but it's also completely unbelievably Indiana name because those people, there's something wrong with them.
Chet Chutney.
Is it Chet or Chuck? It doesn't really matter. But Chet Chutney, Chuck Chutney. The important thing is his last name is Chutney, and she slept with him because she's also slept with everyone else in the high school, apparently.
Mhm.
And weirdly enough, that's not. You would think for a 2005-ish movie that would be like a slut shaming scene, but it's not. It's just kind of like like a fact of life. She slept with all these people in the high school,
Yeah.
which is refreshing, considering Harry's attitude towards gay Perry at times, which is not necessarily homophobic, but like kind of grossed out by Perry. But admittedly, Perry also does gross stuff like have a secret gun hidden under his testicles, which does come in handy, but like is also like kind of gross.
And they do make out to keep the cops from
Which is
arresting them right after they put that dead body in the trunk.
which is very funny. It's a very
Yeah.
funny scene, and full credit to both those guys for just going for it.
Going for it. Yeah.
Especially Val Kilmer, who, if you told me Val Kilmer just grabbed Robert Downey Jr. by the face and crammed his tongue in his mouth, I would 100% believe you because that's what it looks like. It doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr. is like pretending to like try to pull away. It looks like Robert Downey Jr. is like caught by surprise.
I bet I bet Val Kilmer thought that was hilarious.
Oh, you
I
know he
hope
did.
so. Yeah.
I have no doubt that he did. Val Kilmer seems like the kind of guy who would think that kind of thing is really funny just to mess with people. But yes, so Harry throws Harmony out, and then we get Harmony, who supposedly disappears, but as we've discussed before, she's just working up in the hills and she doesn't have cell reception because it's 2005, not 2024, and cell
Mhm.
phones aren't exactly everywhere. So, one of the things that kind of clued Harry in to, or clued everyone around Harry in, was the fact that the corpse who they think is Veronica Dexter wasn't wearing underwear.
Yeah.
And apparently, a thing in mental hospitals is you don't get to have underwear. I assume because you can hang yourself with them? Question mark.
Mm.
Well, anyway, they decide
Let's
that
go with that.
they decide to. I mean, it would make sense because you also don't get like shoelaces or belts, right?
Yeah.
Trying to
Same
think
in
of.
prison.
I'm trying to think of things you could like make a ligature out of, and like underwear elastic would be like number one on the list
Mhm.
after like shoelaces and belt. So I don't know. Anyway, because the movie requires it, they go to this mental hospital that Harlan runs, and they figure out that Veronica had been locked in there, and that Harlan was using the pink-haired girl to end the feud over the mother's inheritance. So the daughter who comes back in to the country from Italy or wherever, that wasn't the daughter. That was actually the double, and the daughter was actually the one who was trapped in the mental health facility,
Mhm.
and presumably they were both going to be killed, I guess. Is the daughter is the okay. So I think the actual daughter is the corpse they find, and pink haired girl is the double who gets shot.
Yes. Yes.
So the daughter is already dead. Harlan has replaced the daughter with pink haired girl,
Mhm.
and then she accidentally or possibly no, she deliberately gets killed later by Harlan's goons, I guess, to end off that loose end, and then they're going to have a big cremation of the initial body of the daughter to hide the fact that she had had a double
Mhm.
because it's already gotten out into the news that she's dead, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Then we lead into one of the funniest scenes in the movie for me, where they are not playing good cop, bad cop. They are playing F word slur that I probably shouldn't say on the podcast and New Yorker. They have a guy, one of the orderlies at the hospital, pulls a gun on them, and they turn the tables on him, disarm him, and both have him at gunpoint. And then Harry decides we'll play a game of Russian roulette, and he puts the bullet in the chamber, spins it twice, flicks it shut, boom, blows the guy's head off immediately before he can answer a single question.
I I love his math in that too. I only put 1 bullet in. That's only like 8% chance.
Who
Who
taught you math? That is a fabulous scene, and one of the funnier. The whole the whole thing that drives this movie is the chemistry between Perry and Harry.
Yeah.
And I feel like any scene where those two are just like busting chops is like gonna work for me.
And Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. actually genuinely liked each other. So, excuse me. So that helped. They had met prior to this. Had they done any films together prior to this? I don't think
I
so.
don't think so, but I mean, if you told me they had, I would believe you because it definitely comes across like they know each other's like working style.
Mhm.
And then that's where we get to the scene where after they accidentally shoot the orderly, they get captured by Harlan, and they get the Johnny Gossamer torture treatment that was mentioned previously
Mhm.
in the movie when it seemed like it was wrapping up about 20 minutes before this. And then that's where we get the reveal that Gay Perry keeps a gun in his crotch because homophobes never check there. And then you get the great scene of Val Kilmer humping the air, shooting through his tracksuit pants to kill a guy. And Harry's exultation after he sees this, and yeah, and he's like, I'm just glad you had a gun because I was worried that was a thing that gay people could do.
This movie is so ridiculous. And sidebar wasn't keep me honest here, Ron. Prior to this film, like, hadn't Shane Black been experiencing writer's block?
Yes.
And then he came out with this banger, which he just like put everything. He basically, I feel like he put every plot that he'd started writing just in a dryer with a bunch of fireworks. And then this is what came out.
Yeah, he had gone through a prolonged career downturn and was having some serious difficulties. And yeah, it just feels like he threw everything he had at this movie, and it definitely sticks. So that kind of leads us to the ending moments of our movie.
Mhm.
Harry gets a hold of Harmony, who steals the van with Veronica's corpse in it. There's a pretty great chase and shoot scene. Perry and Harry are shot by the same bullet after escaping, but Harry manages through use of his magician powers and a lot of convenient actions to get a gun that he got off of Perry, who had been shot and presumably killed, and uses that to kill Harlan. And that's kind of the climax of the movie. And then we get a great scene at the end where Harry even lampshades the fact that I know this is the part of the movie where the studios get nervous and all the people you think are dead show up again. And there's a guy on crutches, and it turns out he's not really dead, although you think he looks like he's dead, but he's
Mhm.
not. But this is really what happened. And I think that's a very clever way to give the studio what they want, give the audience what they want, but
Yeah.
also still like have some fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That was nice. Because I didn't want gay Perry dead. I also really liked in that shootout when Harry realizes, yeah, I was shot, but look, it went through the book. Or it hit the book, and then Harmony just puts her finger all the way through the hole. And he
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, shit."
Yeah, and a great like subversion of the trope, right? How many
Yeah.
times have you seen in something where a guy gets shot, but it gets caught on a book or a
Necklace or I don't
necklace or
know.
a flask or a Bible
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what
yeah.
have you? There's
Yep.
always something that blocks the bullet in these movies. And this one, I think it did kind of block the bullet, but then it also just went straight into his chest
Mhm.
or shoulder or whatever, and that was a great that was a great little moment because you think, oh yay, it's so hopeful, and then like you
Mhm.
see the finger poking through the book, and it's like, oh well, never mind. But that sets up the happy ending where all those people turn out not to be dead, except for Harmony's sister, who is still dead. And
Mhm.
then we go to the very final moments of the movie in which we find out that having witnessed Harlan having sex with Veronica's doppelganger, Jenna kills herself because she can't deal with the thought of both her original father and her shiny new Hollywood father being sex creeps
Yeah.
and perverts. And then you get the scene of Perry showing up at her Jenna's father, his sick bed, where Perry slaps him a couple of times.
Mhm.
And then you get a nice little capstone hat on a hat at the end where we see that Harry still lives in Los Angeles and now works for Perry in what is probably the nicest office any private detective has ever had anywhere. Because it's clearly in Los Angeles, there's clearly big glass walls, and it's super duper nice.
Yep. And Perry has excellent taste.
Why do you think this movie didn't land with audiences at the box office?
I have no idea. You probably have a better idea than I do. The only thing I can think of is it wasn't marketed that well, because back to my earlier comment, this was right in my wheelhouse, and it really aligned with a lot of other films that were coming out at the time, or at least that were coming out and on my radar at the time. So I'm not sure. Do you have any other insight that may be more helpful than mine?
I mean, Warner Brothers did distribute the movie, but it was one of those movies that only got like a limited release. It
Mm,
never went wide. Robert Downey Jr. wasn't really a bankable star at this point. Val Kilmer was on the way down. Shane Black wasn't the it guy anymore. Um, it wasn't really a proven commodity as director either. So it ended up making like
yeah.
its money back, but it was never like a big deal in America. And I also feel like they released it a little too early. They put it out in October. They didn't put it out in
Mhm.
like December. And I feel like if they'd put it out closer to Christmas, maybe it would have like hit a little harder. I
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the critics didn't like the lead performances, but didn't like love the
Critics
movie.
don't like a lot of things that I like, so, I mean, I guess we're kind of critics. We're armchair critics. But I think I like most stuff that we see, with few exceptions.
It was one of those movies that was like the press immediately decided that people were overlooking this because like even in 2005, like there were like the Phoenix Film Critics Society said that this was the overlooked film of the year.
Mm.
And like 2006, Empire magazine said it was the best thriller that had come out that year. Um, I feel like maybe the Shane Black style, doesn't work for everyone. Roger Ebert famously like said they should have just played this movie straight instead of mugging so hard for laughs when like the laughs are like some of the better parts of the movie.
Yeah, I like the laughs. So this was released in October. I mean, it is a light Christmas movie. I don't think it focuses so hard on the Christmas. It's like a secret Christmas movie. But why I mean, what else? I guess, would you agree or disagree with that statement? Because really the only Christmas we see is at the very beginning, right?
Well, you see her dressed in the Christmas
Oh, the
clothes.
Santa. Yeah, that's true.
Um, yeah, the Santa baby outfit. She's always going off to work Christmas parties in
Mhm.
whatever her job is as a hostess or waitress or whatever. Um, in the weird party that Robert Downey Jr. goes to in the Hollywood Hills, all of the weird like dancer stripper characters are dressed
Yeah,
in
that
like Christmas
was
iconography
mhm.
in some violently unsettling ways. Like just really like creepy, unsettling kind of stuff. Um, I don't know that I would consider it like a straight up Christmas movie, but I feel like there's enough elements of like guy finds his old. There's enough elements of like Hallmark stuff in here. Like guy finds his old love from high school, they reconnect and they end up together, and he has a
Mhm.
best friend. Like there aren't as many like shootings or naked people in Hallmark movies, but
True.
that's what makes it a Shane Black Christmas movie and not just a Christmas movie, and definitely not a Hallmark Christmas movie. So to me, the story of like these two lost people finding each other and becoming like a couple, and like Harry ended up getting a straight job, pardon the pun, with Gay Perry, um, and the fact that she may not be living her dream as an actor and he may not be being an actor as well, but they're both like happy and they have a life together and they have a friend and employment and positive things, kind of makes me feel like it's a Christmas movie just because they find a family of sorts together. It's
That's
the
nice. Yeah, that's a really nice sentiment.
But also I could just be biased because, Shane Black Christmas month was my idea and I'm going to aggressively defend Shane Black as a secret sentimentalist.
I'll back it.
I think that for all the world weariness that you see in a lot of these movies, for all the jokes and shootings and action elements that come with Shane Black being an action movie guy, there is a secret heart there that comes through
Yeah.
in a
And
way
this
that,
one,
to me, like makes it a Christmas movie. Sorry.
yeah. And this one was for all the deaths and shootings and just general weird stuff that happens, really does find that nice, sentimental, happy ending.
Even if it does have to lampshade the happy ending a little bit
Yeah.
by making
Mhm.
fun of it, that doesn't detract from the actual happiness of the happy ending.
Right. Yeah.
And speaking of happy endings, I feel like we are coming to the happy ending of this podcast, where it was a knife fight to get through the plot of the dense and complex and twisty and turny
So nice we tried it twice.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Yes. Lindsay, what are your final thoughts and popcorn ratings for KKBB?
I stand by my initial statement of if 2005 Lindsay had seen this movie when it came out, she would have loved it. It would have been on my film rotation watch in the same way that Snatch and Thank You for Smoking and I Heart Huckabees and all the other movies I mentioned have been on my film rotation. Um, so I would highly recommend it. I promise the plot is not as confusing as it is to say out loud when you're watching it. It all weaves in together really well. And Shane Black does a great job tying all of these wild, plots and subplots together in a way that shockingly makes sense. And it's so enjoyable and so funny. And Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer have great chemistry. I would absolutely give this a large popcorn. I would watch it again. I had no idea what I was in for when I started watching it, but I am glad that it is now um I'm glad that it's now under the belt. I can say I've seen it. I've celebrated Shane Black Christmas.
Will it go in your Christmas movie rotation?
It might, yeah. I think it will.
This is actually a movie that I end up watching a lot in the post Christmas. I still want to celebrate Christmas, but I don't need like Christmas feels kind of period.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, in a way, a lot of this movie stylistically reminds me of In Bruges, which is another excellent
Oh, good pull. And
not Christmas movie.
yeah, and Colin Farrell's in Bruges, which is who Harry
Which
loses his roles
yeah,
to.
which is the one of the running jokes of no, they brought you into this movie to take $2 million off Colin Farrell's salary.
Yeah.
Just very funny. But yeah, I love this movie. I watch it probably every year. Uh, it's not like a Christmas movie, but like it is one of the more fun exercises of this mid early to mid 2000s neo noir revival that happened. Um, just the chemistry for the main characters, the actors, is just off the charts. Like for all three of them, Monahan, Val Kilmer, and Robert Downey Jr. They just all the three of them just work so well together. Whether it's RDJ and Val Kilmer or RDJ and Michelle Monaghan or all three of them together, it just like pops. It hits. It's really well done. This is a great movie, and to me, it's definitely a large popcorn with extra butter because it's on the cusp of being an extra large popcorn. It gets a little too clever for its own good, I think,
Mhm.
but I would rather a movie be too clever for its own good than too dumb to keep up with itself. So I'm going to go with a large popcorn with extra butter. So that leads us to the closing of the show. But if you want more film strip action, I have a place that you can go. Not only is it every podcast app ever, where you can find all of our episodes, but we have a brand new YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and you type in Film Strip Podcast, you will pop up the YouTube version of our show. You will not get to see our lovely faces loading in boxes while we talk about the movies, but you can still listen to every podcast that we've got out, all 300 and something of them. And when we get to January and we hit episode 400 with our super secret episode 400, man, you guys are going to be in for a treat. That is a great episode. Jay has reunited as many of the Film Strip crew as he could get together to show up for that very, very special, very, very fun episode. And that will definitely be on our YouTube channel as well. So go to our YouTube channel, like, rate, and subscribe. And while you are liking and rating things, you can follow us and find us on social media at Filmstrip Pod. We are on X and Blue Sky now. We'll be there to share announcements about upcoming shows as well as other fun content. So don't forget to subscribe and share the show. Bonus points if you leave us a positive review, as it helps other people find our podcast, and it makes us feel good about ourselves. Don't you want to give us a Christmas gift? It's literally the cheapest Christmas gift you could possibly give. 5 stars and a few nice words about our wonderful podcast. Until next time, for Lindsey, I'm Ron. Thank you for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.